herbatka, piwko, kochaniutki, misiaczku, pieniążki, ciasteczko, koteczku. Polish people love diminutive forms. We use them all the time, sometimes I think maybe a bit too often, and sometimes without really any meaning or function. So this is what we're going to be learning today. I'll show you when to use these diminutive forms, how to create them, and I'll also show you how to use them to address loved ones, especially romantic partners. So, zaczynajmy. So the first kind of function of the diminutives is to create a smaller version of something. So in Polish, diminutives are called zdrobnienia. So it's basically the smaller version of something. So some examples could be, instead of krzesło, we could have krzesełko. Instead of fotel, we could have fotelik. Instead of ciastko, we could have ciasteczko. And I'll show you exactly how to make these forms a little bit later on in the lesson. But now on to kind of the second reason for why we use these forms in the first place. So we also use them when we want to show affection to someone or when we have like an emotional connection to something. So that's why you often see these forms being applied to names and also like to family members. So for example, my name Zuzia or Zuza would be Zuzanka or Zuzieńka or Zuzka. Iza could be Izunia, Kasia could be Kasieńka, and maybe later on I can show you a few more. Mama could be Mamusia, tata could be Tatuś, siostra could be Siostrzyczka, and brat, Braciszek. And you often hear parents address their children this way and use diminutive forms when talking to them. So, for example, a parent could say, chodź, założymy ci buciki i czapeczkę. Instead of saying, chodź, założymy ci buty i czapkę. Let's now look at how to create these diminutive forms, and what I'm going to show you are the most common endings. So for the feminine nouns that end in a K, that end in an A like they usually do, we instead have a K ending. So for example, we could say ryba, rybka, kawa, kawka, piżama, piżamka, herbata, herbatka. But sometimes you have to change the word slightly more. So for example, if we have the word torba, so a bag, if you have like a smaller bag, which is still a normal sized bag, it would be torebka. So torba is like a big bag, like a travel bag, and then torebka is like your normal handbag. And then if you have like a really small bag, like a handbag, then we could say torebeczka. So this is actually the diminutive form of torebka. But torebka in itself is actually a normal word, I would say. You could take it even a step further and make a diminutive form of torebka and say torebunia. So I actually heard my friend say this recently and it really made me laugh. I just thought it sounded really cute when she said it. But other times, these kind of diminutive forms tend to irritate me. Depends in what context they're used. But I'll maybe talk about this later on as well. For the masculine nouns now, we have ek ending, ik or ik ending. The most common endings. There are lots more, but these are the most common ones. So for example, we have the word syn, a son, synek, brat, braciszek. Then you see that the word changes quite a lot. And the same way we can create another diminutive form from synek, and it would be syneczek. Although that's not as often used as synek. I think like the first level diminutive forms, if I could say that, I'm not sure if it's the proper way to call them, but I kind of like to think of it as like the first level and the second level diminutives. The first level are much more often used than the second level diminutive forms. So like torebeczka or torebka, more common than torebunia. And then for the neuter nouns, for example, we could say instead of mleko, we could say mleczko. Or instead of okno, we could say okienko. So they do vary quite a bit. There isn't like one rule for each of them. So often in the original word, something needs to be changed for it to become a diminutive form. For example, bilet, ticket, becomes bilecik. Pierogi can become pierożki. Ręce can become rączki. Another reason why I have mixed feelings about the diminutive forms is that I feel that they're often used when someone wants to sell us something, for example, or to kind of cover up the fact that we're actually going to have to pay for something. So instead of saying pieniądze, money, people tend to say pieniążki as if it's something less significant, as if maybe it's not that expensive as you might think. So this is something that I really do not like. Just saying pieniążki instead of pieniądze makes it feel like it's makes it become like infantile, childish, something that you do not want to do, in my opinion. And the same thing if like let's say that a person is selling something to you in a fruit and vegetable market. They will often use these diminutive forms for the same reason, I think. So they could ask you, a może jeszcze trochę truskaweczek, może pani jeszcze chce trochę malinek, a tutaj kalafiorek jeszcze taki ładny, może by pani chciała. So again, maybe not everyone feels the same way about this as me, but I personally don't like it when someone overuses these diminutive forms because I feel like I'm being a little bit trying to be persuaded when I really don't want to be persuaded, when I just want to buy whatever I want to buy and nothing else. Or for example, when I'm at the bakery and I ask, a za ile te drożdżówki z budyniem? Then people tend to reply like, oh, drożdżóweczki są po 4 złote. So I didn't even use this word in the first place, but they're kind of, making a diminutive form out of it. I don't know, maybe you have your own opinion about this. If you have been in Poland or maybe you live in Poland and you've noticed people use this a lot, then you might know what I'm talking about. Let me know down in the comments what you think about this. Maybe you have no problem with it. Maybe you think it's just pleasant to listen to and there's nothing wrong with it. That's also okay. And we can also use these diminutive forms for adjectives. So we have the endings utka, eńka, usia, and for the masculine we would have utki, usi, eńki. So if you have the adjective słodki, so sweet, you could say słodziutki and słodziutka for feminine, but also if you have the adjective mały or mała, you could say malutka, maleńka, and malusia. And the same for masculine, malutki, maleńki, malusi. And out of these three, I think, malusi you say when something is physically really small. Maleńki we used to kind of refer to when you're addressing a person, a child or a loved one, like maleńka. Although I think that's also used when guys try to flirt with girls, they might say maleńka. And malutki or malutka is just like a sweeter version of mała. So now, when addressing loved ones, especially in romantic relationships, there are words that I think are the most common, that people tend to use the most, and these would be, for example, kotek or kotku. Some people like to use the vocative case to address their partners, so they can say kotku, but some people prefer to say kotek. You can also say koteczku. And then, what else? Kochanie is the most common one, the like most neutral one, I think. But there's also, you can also say kochaniutki, kochaniutka. Although I'm not sure if I've ever come across someone using this when addressing their romantic partner. I think the only time I hear kochaniutki, kochaniutka is actually in shops, especially when the shop assistant is a little bit older. They do tend to use kochaniutka or kochaniutki to you. So they would say, for example, coś jeszcze dla ciebie, kochaniutka? Coś jeszcze dla ciebie, kochaniutki? You can also say misiu, misiaczku, misiek, słoneczko, słońce I already mentioned, but słoneczko, that's like the diminutive form. So słońce in itself is actually not diminutive, it's just like a normal word. But you could say słoneczko instead, skarbie, and also żabciu, but that's mostly when addressing women. So like little frog. But very often we use these diminutive forms for names, like I told you before. So instead of saying Agata, we say Agatka. Magda, Madzia. Karolina, Karolinka. Martyna, Martynka. Marta, Martusia. Gosia, Gosieńka. Gośka. And when used in the vocative case, so like a more traditional way to address people, we would say Agatko, Madziu, Karolinko, Martynko, Martusiu. But I have to, I think, mention this, that a lot of people really don't like it when you use these forms for their names. I personally like Zuzanka or Zuzieńka, but I know that for a lot of people, their names just don't sound good when put in these diminutive forms, and I totally understand that. I'm pretty sure that there are many other ways that we could address, people in the family, loved ones, and so on. So if you would like me to be a little bit more creative, maybe give you some more examples, then let me know down in the comments if that would be helpful, or maybe you would prefer another topic. So that's everything for today. Dziękuję za oglądanie i do zobaczenia w kolejnej lekcji. Na razie!